At 2:59? Okay. Eva's getting ready. Okay. Just one more minute, and we'll get started. I guess it's 3. Okay. Welcome to our board meeting. Today's date is Wednesday, September 13th. It is 3 p.m. We are at the district office, and in attendance we have our board members, Nan Barton, Steve Black, Lori Mon, Mary Shumway, and we also have Colleen Benali, who is virtual, and I think Nelson will be joining us. We also have Superintendent Fitzgerald and Business Administrator Tyrell Pemberton and other staff. So we will begin with a motion to approve the agenda, if I can have a motion for that.
I move that the agenda be approved.
Okay, motion by Steve, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Nan. Do we have any discussion? Okay, oh,
No.
oh, I'm just grabbing your mic, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, so the agenda passes. We'll move to our Quest update, which is the spotlight report. So Superintendent, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm excited to provide an update for our Heritage Language program. You know, this month we'll have our 30th anniversary of the Heritage Language Conference, which is an exciting event for us, and we're excited about that upcoming event that will be at the end of this month on September 29th. As part of that conference, we'll also have a youth conference the day preceding for our Native Youth Council. So it'll be a 2-day conference with one focused on students, and then the second day also including teachers and staff. I just wanted to share a little bit of the work that they've been doing through our Heritage Language program over the past year, a couple of years actually. It's really been focused on developing the curriculum and continuous improvement. One piece I really want to highlight is the PLC work. So in the past, you know, we've worked with this professional learning community with all of our teachers, and Heritage Language has really focused on that in the past couple of years to really say, how do we use data, how do we improve by collaborating together as teachers? And so they also have their PLC work that they do as well, and wanted to highlight that. And then I just want to celebrate a little. We have our Johnson O'Malley Conference, National Conference, that we have some of our board members at, but we also have a number of our staff there, including our Heritage Language teacher, Christine Rock from Sabina Sky Elementary, and she has received the Teacher of the Year Award for National Johnson O'Malley Region 7. So that's a big award, and she's going to receive that in just a couple of hours, so we're excited about that. We also received the JOM program for San Juan School District, received the Exemplary Program Award for Region 7 as well. So I think that's a really exciting celebration for both of those things.
Okay, thanks. That's exciting. Good things in the Heritage Language program, so thank you. Okay, we'll move to our board discussion items. So we welcome Mr. Derek Begay, if you'll come forward. And he is actually our new assistant superintendent for the River Region, and so welcome. And you're going to speak to us about the spend plans.
Yes, good afternoon, board members. Thanks for having me today. So just wanted to provide some information on the spend plans that were presented for Monument Valley High School. And I know that there was questions about the cheer team specifically. So we had did some research and identified some areas where there were similarities with one school specifically versus another school similar in size and population. However, with the start of the program at Monument Valley High School, we noticed that there's a lot of startup costs that aren't identified within those, so we wanted to make sure that those costs were at least initiated within the first year of bringing back that program at Monument Valley High School. So that is a reason of the increase of costs. There are some things that we identified that might not be included in that. So like, again, the number of state games, a cheer camp in the summer, those items might not be available, but we just wanted to make sure that if there were, that money was already allocated and dedicated for that purpose. Again, just along with the lines of equity as well. And then along with that, there's also information as far as the grouping of those students who have signed up since the start of school, and a lot of those are going to be continuing the program. Glad to report there's 1 7th grader, 2 8th graders, and 4 freshmen that have already signed up. So that consistency of that program and the longevity of it is identified with the students who are interested in that program. In addition with those, there's also 2 seniors that are help guiding that effort. So that's kind of some of the reason of the different costs, and we're assuming that by next school year it will go down to a school more comparable, but that is the reason for the increase, at least to start it off in that program. So, and then in addition to that, just I think with the esports there was no real concern, but those are kind of just following along the lines of what was presented with Whitehorse High School last year, and that program has been moved over to Monument Valley High School. And then yeah, those were kind of the notes that I had to make sure that I addressed some of the concerns and questions from the last board meeting. So I'm open to questions or any clarification if needed.
Any questions, board?
I have a question. If I heard correctly, that it's higher this year because it's starting, and then it might not be that high in the future. But in my mind, I'm thinking there will be new girls each year, so wouldn't it need to have this base there every year for anybody who is new?
So that's a very good question. I think the startup costs are looking at the jerseys, and that cost is going to front load. So it's not just getting it for the amount of girls who are signed up currently, because again, we're looking at increases with that. But again, those uniforms will be purchased, and that was the big part of that cost that hasn't been identified. So I'm not sure the last time the school has ordered those, but I think that's the reason why. So we do assume it'll go back down to, again, a comparable size the next school year.
Okay, so the uniforms will be purchased just like they do for like maybe a sports team, and they will continue to stay there. Next year's girls will wear the ones. Okay, all right, thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
That makes sense.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you for that information, and thank you for answering those questions, because, yeah, that was very informative. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And also, board, this is the second time we've seen them. It will be on the consent agenda for approval if we choose, so. Okay, USU Students Computational Thinking Assessment. Jeff, you ready?
I'm glad I made it. I was over at CCR's at the middle school, so.
That's okay, we saw you sneak in. Thank you for
Yeah.
being with us.
So I'm just here, last year we were approached by USU about doing a computational thinking project, and they did the first step of the project last year. They got approval for it. Now they're here to talk about the second step. And this is Colby Toffel Grail. I probably butchered your name, and I'm sorry. But she's here actually to talk to us. I'm just introducing.
Okay,
So, but
go ahead,
she's
thank you.
online.
Actually, Jeff, you did beautifully, and I'm used to all sorts of butchery on my name, so full props. Thank you so much for having us. Our research team is trying to understand better how students make sense of what computational thinking is, and how what aspects of it are unique and different from, say, mathematical reasoning and other aspects. And so in the study that we are hoping to have approved in this meeting, we want to be able to deploy a test for students that they volunteer to be a part of using iPads. It will be in an after-school setting. It will be scheduled at a time that's convenient for the school schedule, and both parents and students need to consent and assent, so we would need permission both from a parent and from the student at the middle school level. The test will take about 30 to 45 minutes. Students are compensated $10 for their time completing this. There is no school data associated with this whatsoever, so there are no FERPA issues associated with this work. What we're really trying to make sense of is understanding what aspects of computational thinking are unique and separate from mathematical reasoning and other skills. And so that's what we are hoping is something folks are comfortable with, and I'm really here to answer any questions that I can for folks about that.
Questions for the board?
I guess I would like to know what will be done specifically with the information, not an individual person's information, but I found this very, very interesting as I read through it. I have way more questions than, because it's kind of, it's interesting. I'll just put it that way. So anyway, what's the end result of the information that you'll find do you anticipate to?
So when educational researchers, a lot of money and resources are going into teaching computing and computational thinking specifically on a wide range of projects. And one of the questions that our research team has really struggled with is, what is unique to computational thinking? So a lot of the features of computational thinking, such as algorithmic thinking, are also present in mathematical reasoning. They're present and accounted for in spatial reasoning. And so what we have designed is a study that takes into account the aspects of computational thinking and within the statistical analyses. So this is my specific answer to your question. Within the statistical analyses, basically we account for the varied types of reasoning and thinking skills that are associated with scientific reasoning and other aspects. And then if at the end of that analysis there's something left over, that would be unique and would constitute unique intellectual efforts associated with computational thinking and computational reasoning. And so that's how this data will be used. Everything will be de-identified so that students remain anonymous.
Keep going. Yeah, you can talk to the rest of us. You're good.
Okay, sorry, I can't see, so I didn't know. My apologies. But I'm excited that folks have questions, and I'm happy to answer as many questions in as many different forums. So if folks have questions beyond today, I just don't want anybody to feel like they can't ask questions in a week when it comes to them or anything like that. So please don't be shy.
Do you have any questions?
Did you have something, Steve?
Just,
I had a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead.
My question was, will you be going to each of the schools to test the students, or are you going to have them, would you like them centralized in one place? That's not something we can really do realistically.
So our goal is for there to be absolutely no weight put on schools and districts and teachers, because y'all, unless I have, things have changed since I was in the classroom as a teacher, y'all are pretty taxed. So it is our intent to go to where students are. The only caveat to that is that we would not go on to tribal lands because we do not have permission from tribal IRB, and we would be respectful of those spaces. And so aside from that caveat, we are happy to go as far and as wide as we need to be accommodating to the schools. If there's one student, we'll go for one student. If there's 10, we'll go for 10. That's our responsibility, not the schools or the districts.
Can I speak to that a little bit too,
Yes.
Colleen? Last year when we did this, we did it at ARL because that's the only middle school we have in the district, so that was where we had them do their study. So I would assume we do.
Okay, and just to further ask on that was because you needed 700 from what I understand, and 650 students were asked to be a part of it, and so that was what my questioning was, is are we going to be able to go to the other schools to give them a chance to participate should they like to?
We are absolutely happy to travel anywhere that is at a time that's convenient for folks. Like we are happy to go to folks. The only caveat to that is that we would not feel comfortable without, and it wouldn't be appropriate to go onto tribal lands without those permissions. So if it's important to folks that we obtain those permissions and go to those spaces as well, we are certainly open to doing that. But yes, we will travel to wherever is necessary. That's on us.
Okay, Steve.
as part of our internal discussion here, Superintendent, do you have any concerns about this survey, giving it to our students? Do you have any recommendations for us?
Yeah, I don't have any concerns after reviewing the materials that are here. I mean, this original proposal came to us, to the district and then to board last year. I think in December is when you looked at the first stage of that, knowing that this was a 3-part series they were requesting, but they would return each year to the board for permission. So I think this aligns with what that original proposal was. We just have a little more details about year 2. And then there is a year 3 component of it. I'm assuming that will come to us in a year from now with asking permission again for that last part. So I think this just meets that original research study that was provided to us and meeting those steps. I don't, if you look at the assessment, I don't see any concerns. I mean, they really are asking questions to get that understanding in their research. And again, it is voluntary, so I think that's always the key piece, is that if a student and a parent feels like they want to participate, they have that opportunity, but it's not required. It's not pushed on them. We just provide the flyer, the information, and then they make that choice. And we can provide additional information or put them in touch with the researchers for additional information.
Thank you.
Yes.
My question would be, it just says something in the letter about time and effort required of San Juan School District personnel, so I'm curious what that would be, what that would look like.
Can you elucidate for me what you're seeing in which letter? I apologize, because we have a
Sorry, it's just a draft, but there's a phrase that just says something about, we're going to be basically this, after a thorough review of the project, San Juan School District understands and agrees to support the procedures, et cetera, but the last part, the time and effort required of San Juan School District personnel/resources. And so I was just curious what the anticipated, what's anticipated from the personnel.
Sure. From as best as I know, and if this understanding is incorrect, I will be happy to correct it for folks and attend an additional meeting. But I don't believe there is any expectation for San Juan personnel. I know that during phase one, folks were, as noted by someone else in the meeting, were disseminating phase one at the centralized location. But it's our anticipation that our team will come to San Juan and conduct this research so that there's limited, if any, time and effort from San Juan personnel.
Okay, thank you.
My
course, thank you.
understanding was just the space
Okay,
and access.
yeah.
Okay, and one last question with regards to that letter that is up, which actually comes from the school district, but it says that we will be working with the following home languages, which are English and Spanish, but I would think in ARL, would that not be Navajo instead of English, or why do we have those two targeted languages?
I think.
So
that-
those target, go ahead, sorry.
I think that's probably the languages you have your quiz in. Yeah.
Yes, if
Okay.
the board determines it necessary, we are more than happy to have the survey translated to Navajo.
Okay. Okay, I have no other questions. Is everyone okay with that? All right, thank you for joining us, and this is an action item later this evening.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your consideration. Take care.
Thanks,
Okay,
Colby.
you
I'll
too.
let you know. I'll be in touch.
Yep, thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll move to LEA specific license and endorsement requests. Laura?
So the LEA-specific endorsements and licenses are district-issued licenses that are temporary for educators that are not yet qualified to teach the subjects they are teaching. You will notice on most of the licenses, it is because we have hired out-of-state applicants that are still working through the process with the Utah State Board of Education of submitting their application for licensure. There is reciprocity, but the process is slow. So what this does is it allows us to issue a temporary license while that is going through to help with the professional staff costs. This is what drives that as well. The endorsements, we do have quite a few employees that get the endorsements, and that is not rare. If you've been around for a while, you've seen these lists can get pretty long in our smaller schools. We have teachers sometimes teach more subjects than they are qualified for, but we usually have some sort of plan for them to make progress to become qualified, but that is slow. But this year alone, I think I removed 3 or 4 teachers that actually and earned their endorsement, so that was positive. We are making progress, it's just slow. So that's what this list is. It does have to be approved by the board before they can be issued. And then once they receive their actual licensure, this piece is removed and they have their real license posted to the state's website. And we post this information on our school website as well, so that parents are aware that there are educators teaching under these licenses and endorsements.
Any questions, board? Colleen, did you have any questions?
I did, and I think Laura answered it, but it was, could we get the update as well? Because I know I would like to be updated as to whether it was approved or not.
So if you approve it today, it's approved. You're the final piece. So
I'm the guy.
once the board approves it, I'm able to enter those into the state system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm next.
Okay, just stay on up there, would you?
I'll stay here.
Okay, we're going to go over the bullying and hazing policy 4311. Thank you.
Yes, so this is a very rough draft. If you read through it, the red lines have probably overwhelmed you. We are updating our bullying and hazing policy to be in compliance with the state's new regulations. So I did use the USBE model policy when working on this. There is a lot of room to still make some revision. We really just wanted to introduce the board to it, let you know what's happening, and then, of course, give us some time to work through some of the details. If you'd noticed, the biggest changes are with our action plan on how we investigate bullying, and then also our training procedures. So those are things that we'll want to get some more input as well from the schools.
And this is just our first reading.
Correct.
Okay. And this will come back, so, yeah, we kind of need to go through it.
There's a lot to see.
There's a lot.
And even just today, Christy and I looking at it, we found a couple things that needed to just be changed, typo type things. So
Okay.
I anticipate there being many more changes to be made.
Okay. Did anyone have any red flags that came up when they were reading it?
I guess the only thing that was kind of a flag at all to me was abusive conduct. It has a definition of abusive conduct as the source of it from a parent or a student directed to an employee.
Correct. And that's a state requirement to be in this policy.
What about the other way around? How are parents and students protected?
I would guess if we have a district employee bullying a parent or a student or having abusive conduct, that would be dealt through our normal disciplinary process. This piece just protects the employee from abusive conduct from a parent. It is a requirement. It's not a district one. It is set by the state rule and code.
And then, under the abusive conduct prohibited, 4311.6 says no student or parent shall engage in abusive conduct towards a school employee. But then abusive conduct is defined as toward a school employee. And so in my mind, that you're kind of trying to redefine abusive conduct there, because it's already defined as toward a school employee, then it's,
Okay. I mean, we can look at the wording, but yeah, that's why it's placed there.
and then lastly, for a student, we have expulsion as our recourse. For an employee, we have dismissal as a recourse. I don't know what kind of recourse we would have.
I don't know. I had the same thoughts and kind of looked through the code and rule to see, and the model policy to see if it's really addressed on how they'd like us to respond. And it just says that the employee should go through a grievance process, and then the principal, and then of course, moving up through the superintendent would try to help repair that and fix the grievance. But and that might be one of those processes we're talking about where we need to get a little more detail in there. But that's going to be more district specific than a state mandated way. They just said we need to have a process for employees to file a grievance if they are experiencing abusive conduct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Colleen, did you have any? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pemberton, you have 2 in a row.
Yeah, number one, hopefully will be less than even 3 minutes. There was an amendment passed to R277407 that just requires us to update our local policy to include the language that includes SNAP as a provision for automatically qualifying for fee waiver. And so that's just the quick policy update that you see in the red line document, is us just adding that language so that our policy, local policy, is in compliance with the amended state rule.
Okay, now let me just ask one question. That is a really long policy.
It is.
Which is fine, and I know it covers, but is there any way, I feel like some of it's repetitive, is there any way we can, say the same thing, but I'm just wondering if it's a policy we want to look at somewhere down the line that we're saying the same thing, but we're encompassing, tuition and fines and charges, but all in the same language under the same paragraph instead of,
Multiple different places.
I don't know. Laura, what do you think on that?
We can, we can definitely review the entire policy. This was just coming back to make sure that we
Sure.
included that language, but we could add this to our list of policies that we need to review and update and bring back for
Because I.
revision
Yeah.
in any way.
Okay, I mean, it's not a huge priority, but maybe one I would be interested in looking at it to maybe simplify it a little bit. It's just, like I said, I thought, well, maybe I missed something as I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled.
To find
and found
the
red
one line, yeah.
Yeah, so anyhow, just some to put on the radar, so, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Do you want to go on to the BS follow-up?
Yeah, so since our last meeting in August, we've had a couple of very successful meetings with some of our stakeholders, with education committees and other school community council, community member meetings, to receive some feedback on some preliminary renderings of the new Blinding Elementary School. The design team has taken extensive notes on that feedback that was received from those different groups and has started to incorporate some of the feedback and the changes that were requested and asked for. And so that's been really helpful as we've gone through it. Again, MHTN and BDK have been involved with those to help facilitate them and have done a great job in trying to help us capture as much feedback as we can from our different stakeholder groups to help us design and prepare for a building that meets all of our needs. So those occurred, shortly after our meeting. We've had some other updates from that team to help us get moving, continue down the road. We've had our geotechnical survey that was completed, and we're getting we got the preliminary report on that this past week. And we should have our civil survey report in the next couple of days, hopefully, that can help us make some decisions as we move forward with the school. But that has been very helpful and successful with those stakeholder groups to help us get some feedback and to meet the needs of this community and what the Blanding community needs for their new elementary school. So just wanted to provide that brief update. If there's any questions from the board, about that, I'm happy to help answer them if I can.
Any questions? Yeah? Steve? Okay, Colleen, did you have any questions?
I did. It says community engagement, question mark, question mark. Is that something we're still doing, or are we going to hold off on that until we get a little further in our progress, or?
Yeah, so on the design schedule, the reason there's those question marks there is we just didn't have a set date yet for when we're gonna have that community, full community presentation of what the design team has prepared. So that's why there's the question marks on there. We are 100% still intending to have that feedback and that opportunity for the community as a whole to get a glimpse into what is moving forward. We just haven't set a date yet. Specifically for that, as we're kind of waiting on the design team to get those plans a little further along before we hold that. But we do still intend to have those.
Okay, and then to further along on that, will you have like a survey or like a comment card, or how are you going to have them engage with their input?
Great questions. And we have Brian from MHTN online, and he can help us kind of, if Brian wants to chime in here too, but I think in the past we've had kind of like an open forum type of meeting where the public could come and provide any input, and we'd take that into consideration. Obviously, if there's a whole bunch of input, we can't answer and provide every single thing. And that's why we've had some of these smaller stakeholder committees to provide some more specific input, but we do intend to capture as much of that community feedback as possible through those community forums and engagement opportunities. We haven't yet, if at all, discussed the idea of potentially having a survey that would go out to the entire Blanding community, but.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move to number 7, which is our TSSA framework for the superintendent.
All right, and Trevor Olson helped prepare this. He's our Student Services Director, and he did a lot of work on this, but was unable to be here this evening. So I'll just review quickly what this is and answer any questions. So each year we receive the TSSA funding as part of a grant application that's due at the end of September. And we, the board is seeing the framework of how that will be allocated. You know, this is funding that has increased each year, so that's an exciting component of this. So just a few changes this year from last year. So our first priority is we can put up to 25% in teacher salaries. Priority 2 is really looking at our social emotional support. This helps support school counselors and school social workers. And then priority 3 is giving each of the schools an allocation. Last year it was $100. This year, because of the increase, it's now $120 per student allocation. And that's based upon the May 1st student count for each of these schools. And then they develop an individual school plan. They work on trying to align that to their other plans, so we have coherence between each of the plans. And so often how this is used is it's braided in with other funding from their other plans. So this is our proposal to the board and for our framework for the 2020-24 application for the grant.
So, excuse me, so how does each principal or community council, or who is it that decides how that money that goes, you know, for each student would go to the school? Is it, you know, per class? How do you see that working?
Sure. It looks a little different by school, depending on what the needs are for that school. And often, you know, principals are working, you know, you're aware, we braid a lot of our salaries and additional class periods, you know, with being such small secondary schools. You'll see a lot of the secondary schools will have braided in a portion, like one class period they can add to a teacher based upon what their allocation is for FTE. So it just helps provide a little bit more based upon what's in their school land trust plan, maybe what they're looking at in their 90-day plan or what they've been working on. You know, if we look at last year, you know, I can give you an update on any of the schools, but a large focus for last year was our MTSS, intervention and enrichment. And so a lot of our schools used this funding for that. Some of that braided in saying, okay, we can afford from another budget half of a para, and so we're going to cover the other half of the para from TSSA. You know, another school has a reading teacher and they didn't have enough to cover a full, you know, all the class periods for the reading teacher. So maybe they picked up a portion of that reading teacher's salary from TSSA. So it looks a little different dependent upon each school.
Okay, do school community councils have an option of helping to decide how and where the money is spent? Or
They can. I think it really, again, depends on each school and what the needs are. You know, each school could take this, and Julie and Derek could speak to their schools of what they're doing this year, particularly if they're taking it to school community council. Each school's going to be a little different depending on what their needs are, partially because this is a grant funding for this school year, and if we already have a reading teacher that we've hired to teach all those class periods, it would be hard to change, have the community council come in now in the fall and say, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to change that. So it's a little, the timing is a little complicated with that as well. But they should be sharing the plan, at the minimum, they should be sharing this plan with their school community council and discussing, you know, looking for next year, what would the funding look like and what are our needs and what is the input from the school community council.
Okay, and so with any of these categories, with the counseling and the implementation of the quest, which is really vague is from what I'm understanding, so it really can meet the needs within schools, but you're talking, you know, hiring additional counselors and, I mean, using it for salaries, basically. Is that right? That's
So
one of the places where the money can be spent. It can basically be spent for anything, and this is vague enough that schools can really decide what their needs are, as you've mentioned.
Yes,
So-
I mean, the individual school plans, the priority 3 has to align to a category of the San Juan Quest model. So they have to directly align that. So whether that's the MTSS system, I mean, you can look at the Quest model and see what the different categories are. Highly effective instruction is a category, so a lot of times that's what it's aligning to, is to, you know, improve, because the goal of this is really to improve school performance and student achievement. That's really what the purpose of this TSSA funding is. When it originally, when it was allocated originally, I think, was it 2019 maybe? Part of the reason they came up with the TSSA was to allow schools to have a little more flexibility because so much grant funding is so specific of what they can use it on. So it gave LEAs and schools a little more flexibility to say, here's some funding. It still is going to have some accountability and some guidance, but the LEA and the schools have a lot more flexibility to really meet individual and differentiated needs of each school building.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions? Okay. Colleen, any questions?
How did you get? I'm just kidding. I do actually have a question, and excuse me if this is rude or what have you, but I'm looking at the numbers, and BES is looking for 63,000, and Navajo Mountain's only looking for 3,000. You can see that I'm sure Navajo Mountain could benefit from 63,000 as opposed to the 3,000. So how are we, and I know you already answered it, but I can see that all the mountain region schools are getting the higher amount of monies as opposed to the river region schools that are getting the lesser amounts.
Yeah, that's 100% because the allocation is based upon student count. So if you look at May 1st student count, that's how the funding is allocated. So however many, what your student enrollment is, that's what we're projecting. And that's why you're going to have a different amount. The larger the school size, the more you're going to get, and that's going to be consistent across the state with TSSA. Although, how much they're allocating could look different depending on the priorities of the LEA. We have set up the priorities with feedback to have 25% go to teacher salaries, and then we know that social emotional support is a high priority, and so that's why we're allocating that. So that's kind of where we end up with priority 3, and then dividing that funding left over for priority 3 is based 100% on student count, how many students you have in your building.
And there's a way that they can work on it, work around it too, as if to prioritize what they need as well, right? Is that something that they can do? I mean, Navajo Mountain, if they need a paraeducator, they can push to have more funding, or just as whatever it is, the student count, that's what they get.
Yeah, so as far as this particular grant application and the funding we receive, it is 100% tied to the student count. But often what will happen on these school plans is they're braiding it with other funding. So if Navajo Mountain needs a para, then they would braid that with other funding that's available to them. So this would pay a percentage of that para, and then another program would pay a percentage. I mean, this is the ongoing, challenge we have in San Juan School District with so much grant funding, is that we're often braiding those things together for the needs of the school. And that works, we make it work. So that's a lot of the work that Trevor Olson does in his department, and as well as our human resource director in her department. They do a lot of this work to see how we can put all of this together to make it work for schools to staff their schools in the needs that they have.
Okay, thank you.
So when is this money allocated? When do we know about this money?
So the grant application is due at the end of September, so we'll submit that, and then we have never not received the funding, but Tyrell can answer.
Are you asking, when do we have an idea of what our allocation amount is, or?
Yeah, because the only reason is because, like in the SEC, they're trying to do their school on trust, and then they submit that and we approve them, but then they get this funding, and let's say they decide to add another para, but they could use some of that school. I mean, it's just the timing's a little bit weird to coordinate the school land trust and this money together to hire someone. But I'm just trying to figure out the dates of, do we know sooner than that? Do we not know, or?
We get our legislative estimate from the state comes in, and TSSA is one of the programs that they do give us a legislative estimate for on how much they anticipate that the school district will receive. And we get that in the spring. But the actual grant application that goes through the Utah grant system that the state operates isn't until September that they have us apply for the funding. And that's some of our struggle across the board, is the timing of a lot of grants. And a lot of these, the way they come down is, causes some of the challenges and struggles that we have, because it puts us in a weird spot with trying to staff our schools when you have a grant that you haven't been approved for yet, but you anticipate being approved for at the end of a couple months into the school year. So that's always a challenge. We do have a pretty good idea with TSSA funding about how much we're going to get in the spring, but we don't have the application submitted until now.
Right, so it's kind of just a juggling. Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that because you could almost do a position with the SCC with the anticipation that TSSA money could help supplement that, but it's
Yeah.
not a guarantee, so. Okay, I just didn't know if we had a poll on that date or not, or if that's just kind of what that time frame was, so. Okay, thank you. All right, do you want to go to our October October board meeting date change?
Yes. So this is just, discussion with the board. If it's possible to move the October board meeting date, I will be out of the country during the board meeting with plans that were made prior to me knowing the board's schedule. So I apologize for that. And if there's any way, I'm just making a request for the potential for us to move that date, if that's possible.
So the date is October, what did we have it as?
Mentioned October 4th.
October 11th was where we had it. And then-
So it's scheduled for the 11th, and I think did we need to move it to that Wednesday? Yes, it's October 4th, so that will come as an action item to see if that will be approved or not. So, any comments?
Just in addition to possibly moving the meeting to October 4th, or if it were to be moved the week after, our USBA regional meeting is October 3rd. This time we travel to Moab at 6 p.m., so we would have that meeting the night before. Kind of condenses it for people to be here instead of in another country the next week. But anyway, that's the night before the October 4th meeting that, we may possibly switch to, just for general information and scheduling.
Okay, so to clarify, it is currently on the calendar for October 11th. We are proposing to move it to October 4th, which would be the Wednesday prior. And Mary's addition was that the USBA regional meeting, which will be held in Moab, which is in the fall, is the 3rd. So, okay, just some things to keep in mind, okay? Anything else on that?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. We just had the USBA Leadership Academy, which was last Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The superintendent attended, myself, Mary, and Nan. So, Nan, would you like to report anything on that?
No.
I put you on the spot, I know.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to thank the board for the opportunity to let me go to that, since I wasn't able to go to January new member training. And it was very good. There wasn't a moment that I thought this is, I could be at the lake right now, which is where my family was. But no, it was great. And so much good information about leadership and just communication and working together as a team.
Okay. Mary?
Oh, goodness, it was extremely good, and I took lots of notes, but I don't know how much you want. And some of the things that I feel that we should, we all went to breakout session at different times on committees, which I think will be something where we'll look towards starting, having board members serve on committees. I look forward to that. I think we learned a lot in that, and hopefully we can start that. And just working with our public, working together. I appreciated the presentation by Superintendent Dodds in helping his teachers to really love their jobs. I thought he had a lot of really great ideas, and so I appreciated that one. And the customer service part of that was that one, Power of Positive by Jordan School District. Talked about trust is earned, and that may be, there were so many basic, really good just statements from a lot of different speakers. And the trust is earned was a good one. So anyway, I don't know what the process is for us to start implementing some of these things into our board, and maybe we should schedule some time to have a theme or a topic that we work on as a board and as individual board members.
So to piggyback kind of on what Mary has said and Nan, one of the breakout sessions did talk about board committees. And I think there was a kind of a strong consensus with, in fact, all four of us attended that. Now, some of those bigger districts have several committees, 7, 8 committees. And that doesn't mean you meet every month, but even if it's once a quarter or whatever, so that the board, some districts, their board member conducts that meeting. I think that was something that needs to be decided, but I think we generally felt like the administrative people obviously do a much better job at knowing what's going on than with the hands-on stuff. So we would just participate in being on those committees. So at the current time, Steve and I are on the audit committee, but like with the building of the school, they have a finance committee, which would also include your budgets, your finance, and possibly your audit. So when you meet, not necessarily once a month, but like I said, maybe every other month, but so that 2 of your board members kind of know what's going on. So when you come to these board meetings, you have that input of what's going on. And then 2 other board members also have that input to kind of have some more hands-on with the board knowing the inner workings of the admin within our district. And so that's something I think we all felt needs to be brought. And I think we've talked about maybe bringing that next month and getting those, exactly what those committees are and what they look like. We don't want to be overloaded, and we don't want to overload everyone with that. But to just kind of be in on some of those committees would be helpful with that information that we can all share back to each other. And then we also had a speaker which did write a book. It would be Chad Hymas, and so the superintendent has ordered books, which I think could benefit each of us leadership-wise in that. So I think you'll have that next month, and you can kind of present what the expectation is a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that committee work, as we've looked at policy already just in this meeting,
Yes.
like that is one committee that I think would help us as we're really working through a number of these policies instead of it just being at board meetings. So I think that work could occur and then come to the board and get input from the
Yes.
additional board members. So I think that's something we can work on developing what that might look like, and we could bring a proposal back next month in board meeting.
Okay.
Yes, Chad Hymas was definitely one of the highlights of the conference, and happens to be related to Nan, so.
So, okay. And then, Mary, you attended pre-delegate and delegate assembly. Did you have anything you need to report on that?
I did. It's on the agenda in your board packet that I've included the final draft that came out from that delegate assembly that was voted on by the delegates. So the majority of the delegates, this is the end result. So you're welcome to look that over. This document will be used by school board members, by the USBA and administrators to lobby the legislature. So these are the things that came out of that. If you see that and have any questions, that will also be reviewed at the USBA regional meetings. That will be the topic. It usually is in the fall. So read that over and be prepared with questions when that time comes.
So one thing I think to note on that, which this retiree reemployment, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if you retire from teaching or as an administrator, then you can't re-enter into the workforce with that offers the same retirement plan for a year. And so that's one of the priorities, is to try and allow them to come back to work after they've retired. So, which doesn't affect just us. It affects state employees, firefighters. I mean, it affects a lot of people. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, that had quite a discussion. And it turned out that way. One other thing to know about the delegate assembly, because our board needs to send somebody every single year, as well as, at the January convention, that 2 people are voted in at large to attend that. And next year, the delegate assembly will be June 7th and 8th. So if we can have it on our calendar for a board agenda item, probably in, March, April, and so that we know that, that those dates are coming up and somebody can be prepared to represent our board. We just, want to make sure.
Why did they
and have
move that up?
Because of just how everything is moving along faster and be prepared. I like those dates.
The June 7th and 8th?
7th and 8th, so 8th with 7th being the pre-delegate assembly, which is not a required meeting, but the 8th is for voting, and that is the meeting that you can't attend. You can watch it Zoom, but you can't participate through Zoom. So that's the new dates for those, for that meeting next year.
Okay. Thank you. Good job, board. We are through our agenda, except we do have reports, but not until 4.
So can I go ahead and share the rest of the things from
Sure.
USBA,
Yes,
since we have
please.
some time? Let's see, some of them are already passed. A reminder to the board members to complete their Master Boards Award training, and you can go to usbapowerup.com. I actually thought, so I'll send this to you via email, so that you have this electronically as well, or Eva has it, and you can, the first document that I sent out, February 8th and 22nd will be Days on the Hill this next year. Let's see, that's double. Let's see. Shane Reese, the president of BYU, will be speaking at the annual USBA conference. He will be addressing the topic of staying student-focused. So that's unusual that we have that information about a keynote speaker right now, but look forward to that at the January conference. And then our district is encouraged to send positive public education stories to the social media during the month. And I have a schedule, so I'll send that as well. During the month that we are assigned to report and message. And so they want each district to submit information for the social media, and I'll send that via email as well. So be thinking about something that's happening in a school where you live, or in our district. We need board members, we need administrators, everybody, to kind of keep their eyes and ears open for something that might be nice to share on social media, and I'll send that information.
What was our topic again? I can't remember. And it's which month?
They changed, so they initially had topics, if you saw that list.
That was there.
And now the topics are going to be listed just as topics. So choose a topic and a month will be assigned instead of a topic to each month. Does that make
They
sense?
just changed that from what was sitting at the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're aware of
so I sit on the committee for the website. And yeah, that was just decided to change it so that people aren't tied to a particular topic if they have something else that they want to share in their district. So the list of ideas will still be there, just choose a topic that fits with the district, and any of those ideas or ideas that maybe aren't on the list as well would be acceptable.
All right. And is Kim going to be here, or is she virtual?
She's on.
Oh, she is,
Yeah,
and she's on?
She's on.
Okay.
Is it time?
Hello, Mrs. Schaefer, are you there?
Hello, this is Mrs. Schaefer. Are y'all ready for me to go early?
We are. If you want to go early, are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
How have you been?
I think I'm sharing my screen, and I just want you all to see we have CCR going.
Ah,
CCR Open
nice.
house,
That's great.
going strong.
That's great.
I've visited with a lot of families today, and we have a good turnout. We're thrilled at our turnout this time.
That's amazing. Great. We're just pulling your, did everybody get a presentation up?
I'm presenting, or I shared my screen with my presentation on it.
Okay. So is there anything you would like to speak to your slides before we ask you questions?
Well, I want to say that, you know, an event like today is an event like school every day. It takes a whole team, and we have a great group of teachers and support staff with para-educators, custodians, kitchen staff, everybody really pulling together as part of the Raider team, and we are getting good support from our district office. So I just wanted to start by saying, you know, it's a team effort, and we're glad to have everybody on the team.
Perfect. Well, we're glad you're with us for a few minutes. So I know you need to get back, so we'll kind of make it quick, but let me see who would like to ask some questions.
Did she want to, she said everything so far
Yeah.
that she wants to say.
Yeah. Does anyone want to start? Okay. I'm actually going to ask you a couple things. So, you know your progress toward goals? Walk me through a little bit what we did on this, the text-dependent questions. Just kind of walk us through that process a little bit, how that worked. Are you there?
The text-dependent questions are a way to increase reading comprehension skills, because it's not what does a scholar think, what's their opinion. It's not that. It's what does the text actually say about what's the main idea. And so a scholar who's answering text-based questions has to go back to the text and say, according to the author, according to the text, this is what is going on. So it's not an opinion anymore. It's going back to the factual evidence they have to cite from.
Okay. And then I think what we'd like to do is if, does anyone have anything specific? If not, do you want to speak to your challenges and then your celebrations for a minute?
Sure.
And include just about
our
attendance
challenges-
as well. And that probably is.
Okay, yes. Well, I didn't list it as a challenge, but you can see our average daily attendance for last school year was 86.7, which is about what it was before the pandemic. We haven't yet, the highest we've seen it is 90.5, and that was right before we went into the pandemic. So attendance continues to be a challenge. I like to think that as we are raising our expectations and doing the good teaching, that scholars would want to come to school and learn more, and that would cause attendance to be better. And so I didn't list it as a challenge. I listed the academic learning as the challenge, because I want to have the focus be on the academic side. You know, why do we come to school? And that's the learning part. Today I'm talking with parents saying, I think it's time for the cell phones to just stay home. They're causing a distraction to learning. Would you support that? And most parents are having no problem with that. And it's not so much the phone in and of itself, it's the access that the phone provides to social media that's really, I think, the distraction to learning. And then I did, it's pretty challenging to run a full athletic program at schools. I don't think Whitehorse High School is unique in this, and I just wanted people to see that an athletic director is getting paid $3,813, which is the same as a head coach. But like a head basketball coach is working for 3 or 4 months. The head football coach, 3 or 4 months. An AD is working all 12 months. They work through the summer, and there's a lot more responsibilities that an AD does now than before the pandemic. And even when this pay schedule was set up, athletic directors they didn't have the responsibilities that they have now. There's register my athlete, register my coach, different certifications, arbiter. Their responsibilities have only grown, and I don't think that the stipend for athletic director has been looked at for a while. And I think it's a challenge. I'm listing it there as, I don't believe it's unique to White Horse High School.
So, Kim, you're correct.
And then the physical appearance of the building.
Sorry, Kim, just
Oh, sorry.
one thing real quick, I was just going to tell you, you're correct on the athletic director. I've actually had a coach or two approach me, and I think, and I just got this information again. And so I did talk to the superintendent, and I think it's something that definitely is on the radar that needs to be brought up and addressed and looked at, the whole coaching, everything. So just a side note, be aware that it definitely is something that is in the forefront of being looked at. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
go
good
ahead.
to know. It's good to know that other people are
Yeah.
starting to look at it and wonder. Thank you for saying that. The outside physical appearance of our building and campus is, I really have concern about it. I don't know how many people have been, around to different campus to look at what does it look like, but the front of our building is not attractive, and I'm concerned about that, and that's the outside front wall. The water has sprayed on that wall for a number of years and left some sort of mineral deposit. It's very ugly. And the carpet in room 129 is orange from 40-some years ago, and it's ripped up. I've had to tape it down to prevent people from tripping. The library carpet is also the original carpet from 40 years ago, and room 126 carpet. I'm just bringing up, I know those are capital outlay projects, and we have a huge district project in building another school, and I get that. But at some point, I would like somebody to look at the front of our building and these carpet situations, because I don't think it sends the message that we are sending with the rest of our building. We have a beautiful Scholar Commons. Our restrooms were upgraded in 2016. Our locker rooms are looking great. We have new bleachers. Our people are taking care of our facilities. And I just I'd like to draw our attention to the next thing that needs to be addressed. Those would be our challenges.
We'll send that on over to the business administrator. He's making it out. Okay.
I know that buildings and grounds have heard all of that before, so.
Okay.
We have lots of celebrations. I celebrated the Raider team, all pulling together. It's great to see people getting out of that pandemic mindset and saying, you know what, we're on fire for learning. And it's not just the adults that are feeling that way. We have had a really good turnout with our open house and CCR day. Just at my table, I was keeping track of the parents that I was seeing, and it'll be exciting for us to see, did we reach 50% or was it more than that? But it's been a really good turnout. Last year, we were disappointed because we put a lot of effort into CCR Day, and we just felt like the attendance was kind of low. But we've got good attendance today, and I wanted to say, I didn't write this in my slide, but remember how we started on a Wednesday this year instead of a Thursday for the first time that I know of? School started on a Wednesday. And I haven't tracked data, from past years, but this year, on the first day of school, it seemed like there were more scholars in school on that first day, which that's exciting to me. I was thrilled. This little graphic here with raters, confident, proficient, accountable, that's in our vision statement. And last year, scholars, parents, faculty, staff, they all gave us input about what is a confident scholar, what is that? Same thing with proficient and accountable. And you can see the work of all of our stakeholders coming together to say this is what we're aiming for. And I just want to celebrate the involvement of all those stakeholders to get us to that point, and it makes it really clear now. This is our vision that we have for our scholars, and it ties right into the San Juan School District Portrait of a Graduate. And so I just wanted to kind of connect the Portrait of a Graduate work that San Juan School District, and I know the board, you've been involved in some of that work, and how it's coming to our school, at least at Whitehorse High School, that we're trying to interpret that Portrait of a Graduate and make it meaningful to our stakeholders. And we had this image for a while, and you can see the vision statement at the bottom. In preparing for life after high school, our scholars will become accountable, proficient, and confident. All stakeholders will live school values and collaborate to ensure high levels of learning. When we came back from the pandemic, then we took that language, confident, proficient, accountable, and said, what does that mean to everybody? What are we aiming for? We love having the additional scholar advocate, and we are seeing a boost in outside services from San Juan Counseling and Utah Navajo Health System. So we really feel like people heard us, and not just within our county. So it's good to have that additional school-based mental health resources for our scholars. I wanted to celebrate that our scholars read more Sora during last year than all other secondary schools in Southeast Service Center, which, if you don't know what Sora is, I'm happy to give you a quick preview. Oh, I did put better attendance there. Yes, I started with that one. But those would be our celebrations and challenges.
That's awesome. Anything from the board? Colleen, did you have any questions? She's still there. Oh, there she is.
No, nothing at this time.
Okay. Thank you for being with us. Sounds like you've got a lot going on. We appreciate your time with us, and good luck the rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to report. Have a good board meeting.
Okay. Talk to you later. Thank you. All right. Let me just pull this up. Okay. Ms. Atsedy. We're grateful you're with us. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
And you've survived to this point. Very nice.
Well, tonight is tonight's a big night, so I'm excited to be here.
Okay. Actually, would you like to just do the same thing? Let's talk about your challenges and your celebrations.
Okay, I'm just going to flip to those slides. So I would like to start with some celebrations. We had our back to school night, and just like at Whitehorse, we've had a hard time engaging parents because a lot of parents are still just uncomfortable being out in the public. But this last back to school night, we had over 300 people in attendance, and I think we ended up with more. But those were the people that signed in with parents, and so that was exciting. We bought 70 pizzas, 70 large pizzas and we ran out of pizza, so we served a lot of people. The second celebration I wanted to kind of highlight was we have a really great solid Q-tip team at our school, and they have just been instrumental in sort of onboarding all of our new teachers. And we've developed some really strong teams that they're running great, effective PLCs. They're working on lesson plans together, and they're providing PD to the whole staff. So that's a huge celebration in getting to that point. And the last thing I wanted to celebrate was we're really, as a staff, we really have set a goal of trying to engage and really strengthen relationships with parents in the community. So this year, we're going to implement a monthly culture night where we're bringing in parents and community members and just sort of learning and learning about the different cultures together and doing cultural activities.
So have you done one of those yet?
We haven't. So we're going to kick off in October. October is the Navajo New Year, and so we have some ideas and activities planned that we're going to start in October. So we haven't done one of those before.
Sounds great.
Yeah. But we can also talk about challenges. So one of the biggest challenges that we've had this school year is just finding time to support our classified staff. They're so integral to running our school, and they are providing really important services to our students, but most of them are only 32.5 hours a week. And so their day is really scheduled with small groups and providing student services. So it doesn't leave us a lot of time to provide like professional development or training for them. And one option would be to perhaps do it after school and then let them use some of their Friday hours. But unfortunately, a lot of them also have second jobs that they have to go to at the end of the day. So it's been a really big challenge in just trying to find time to support them. Our second challenge, and I think this is probably a district-wide challenge, is just finding substitutes. We have a pretty short sub list, and so there's been times this school year where we've had to pull paras to be a substitute, and so we've had to cancel some small groups. I've had to substitute a little bit, so that's a challenge, just maintaining a good substitute list. And then student attendance is a challenge, but I think just in talking to parents and living in the community, I think one of the bigger issues, it's more than just parents perhaps not sending their kids to school. Transportation is a huge issue, and a lot of our students have to drive quite a ways to the bus stop. I talked to our liaison today, and there are students who are driving 13 miles to the bus stop, 10, 11 miles. Those roads are not always great, and a lot of our students also don't have reliable transportation to get to the bus stop in the first place. And so that transportation issue is a huge challenge in getting kids to school. And then our last challenge is just our building and playground issues. Our building is quite old. We have a lot of work that I think needs to be done. And one example of that is our school was graffitied several years ago. I think it's been probably almost 10 years, and they spray painted the brick on the inside of our school, and that is still there. So we still have like some spray paint residue in the bathroom and in the hallways. This summer we tried to clean our bathrooms. We bought a pressure washer. We had this plan. We're gonna pressure washer the tile and make it shiny and sparkly. Well, we did that and it didn't seem to make a difference. So it seems like our bathrooms probably need to be regrouted. We have like missing tile in the bathroom, so the wood is exposed. We have leaky sinks. Like in my classroom I had last year, we have a water leak, and I'm not entirely sure, but it's continually growing mold under the sink in the cabinet. So just lots of maintenance issues because our building is quite old. We have a playground too, and I think that our playground is scheduled to be replaced. I'm not entirely sure of the timeline, but just last week we had to rope off another slide because the slide was cracked and students kept either tearing their clothes or tearing their skin when they were going down. But it's the only slide that's small enough for the preschool and younger students to access, and so now they don't even have access to a slide anymore because that's the second slide we've had to remove from the playground just because of safety issues. So,
Tyrell, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, the playground's definitely on our schedule to be replaced. That's the first playground that's on our list of schools that needs to be addressed is Montezuma Creek Elementary's playground.
good.
If I may, on your student attendance, to go back to that just a little bit, because Mrs. Schaefer put the same, I mean, we see the data on that,
Right.
and how that, obviously it fluctuates a little bit, but would you say that that percentage is more chronic? The same students are chronic, or is it kind of 85%? I mean, we have an 85%, so we've got the 15%. Is it kind of the same students over and over and over? Or is it this one's sick this time and then another one's sick? Or do you know what I'm asking?
It seems to be a chronic issue where it is the same families that are missing excessive amounts of school.
So, and then obviously they're talked with, what can we do and that?
Well, so this year, we've opted into and I think we did this last year too, where they're getting the phone call. We're also in the process with our student services team of developing like an attendance plan. We're really trying to incentivize good attendance. We're really trying to focus on just offering things to students when they do come to school. And so that is something that we're working on, and also just developing a plan where we have a system in place, a protocol perhaps, if you will, where if they miss 3 days, this happens. If they miss 5 days, we take this approach. So we're really trying to catch parents early rather than like at a 10-day mark, because after 10 days, like that's already pretty significant in the school year.
Sure. And then was that addressed at all in your, when you had all the parents come back? Is that a place where you can address that, or?
We will. We just haven't completely developed that plan yet, so we didn't have it ready to push out to parents at back to school night.
Sure. Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Okay, Colleen, do you have any?
I was just going
Oh,
to
go
say,
ahead.
I love what you're doing with the monthly activities with the parents and getting them involved in, yeah, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Okay. Colleen, did you have any questions?
I did. Hi, Jenny. I'm glad to hear that you had a great attendance for your back to school night. I'm sad I missed it, but still happy it went off as it did. My question is, looking at your ELA composite scores, looking at it, kindergarten, they get so high, get a high percentage, and then they go to first grade, and then they seem to go lower, and then they come back up in the second grade, and then it goes high again, and then back low on the third grade. I'm just seeing if there was any identifiers as to why it keeps rising and then lowering. And I know you're new in your position, but I'm hoping that maybe there's something that we can do to keep it going up instead of it going back and forth.
Well, I'm certainly not an Acadians expert in the lower grades, but one thing I do know is that by the time they get to third grade, it's measuring different things than it's measuring in kindergarten. Accuracy plays a huge role in second and third grade. And so students may be great readers, but if they're making more errors in their reading, or they're forgetting endings or skipping words, that really has a big impact on their overall score. And so I mean, I appreciate you for pointing that out, and that is something that we're paying attention to.
Anything else? Go ahead.
And then, yes, to the attendance, have we, I mean, and like you said, it's a chronic issue. Have we had a sit down as to why, is it, I mean, like an actual one-on-one? Or is it or is there a survey or something more that we can do to find out more than just an incentive? I mean, I'm sure there's always something that we can do to help out.
Well, I know last year that Anita did have meetings with parents, and there were times when they involved the peacekeeper in trying to get students to school more regularly, but a lot of times there were just many different issues that caused students to miss school. But there are pieces in place that we've tried. This year we're really focused on really trying to catch it early, rather than after 10 or 20 days of missed school. We're trying to really focus like on a 5-day hinge point, if you will.
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate you spending your time with us.
Thank you
And
for inviting me.
Thank you. All right. I know that we actually need to go into closed session, so I think that we can just go into that before our break. And it's only for real property?
And we do have a litigation update for you.
Oh, we do have a litigation. Okay, so we're going to have to go into one at a time. So I need a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of litigation first. So I can get a motion.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss ongoing litigation. Is that?
Motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I need a roll call. So Nan, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Here.
Say your name.
Nan Barton here.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes.
Mary Shumway, yes.
Colleen, are you there?
Pauline Benelli, yes.
Okay. All right. we will go in for the discussion of litigation. This is the fun part of our meeting, is where we get to recognize employees in our district that do an amazing job. So Phyllis, are you here? Yes, come on up if you will. And you're going to come right up here to the front. You're going to stand next to me. Okay. You get to be in the spotlight. Oh, dear. Because you're amazing tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Phyllis has dedicated so much time to provide individualized lessons to our students here at Montezuma Creek Elementary School. She goes above and beyond her duties to make sure lessons are provided to students. We appreciate her ability to multitask all day long. Would you pronounce that for me? Well, okay, that's what I so thank you. That means thank you, correct? Yes. Okay, Phyllis does an amazing job providing small group instruction for our students at Montezuma Creek. She provides specific guidelines for her daily groups to ensure accountability. Phyllis goes out of her way to communicate with all stakeholders, including teachers, parents, to ensure student success. And Phyllis comes to school every day with a smile on her face and eager to help all students learn. As a reading interventionist, she goes above and beyond to make sure small groups are effective and that students are learning at high levels. Phyllis is always willing to jump in and lend a hand to others, and she treats both students and staff with kindness and is a friend to all. It is evident that she's committed to improving our school community and invested in helping others. Phyllis is a tremendous asset to our San Juan School District team, and we are grateful in all that she does to support student learning. On behalf of all students, faculty, and staff at Montezuma Creek Elementary, thank you, Phyllis.
Congratulations. And we'll have a little name plaque.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll put it in grapes.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. We'll just scoot in right now.
Would you let me get a picture?
Your family with you?
Yes, that's my sister, Marilyn.
Okay.
She's my big supporter, and then my daughter.
Okay. We're
She's
glad to.
another big supporter.
All right. Well,
So
thank you. We
congratulations.
appreciate the work you do. All right. And then you have yours. And then Mr. Colby, you want to come up, please? That's not your last, but it's Sosi. Colby Sosi. And you also get center stage.
Okay, Colby Sosi was nominated by Lucy Fotokini, and she said this about Colby. Colby does an amazing job with scholars, teaching them history. He also is the advisor to student council, and they have done a good of participating and providing activities throughout the school year. And also nominating Colby is Kim Schaefer. And this is what Kim says. Colby is so engaged with building scholar leadership capacity. As a result, scholar voice and choice are growing. For example, seniors independently created Senior Sunrise, developed plans to host, and successfully implemented plans with breakfast and photo opportunities. Homecoming will be another great example of scholar-led projects as the student government class runs the entire week, parade, and coronation. Colby's social studies classes are intriguing and often result in scholar discussions, curiosity, and growth in knowledge and skills. White Horse High School is very grateful that Colby continues to choose working as part of the Raider team. Congratulations.
Sorry, it's in movie mode. Congratulations again.
Thank you all so much for coming, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, or you're welcome to leave. You don't have, we won't bore you with all the rest of it if you don't want. But we do appreciate, and both of you, it looks like you have a great support staff, and we appreciate the assets you are in our district. Thank you. Do we have any public comments? No? Okay. All right. We'll continue on with our consent agenda. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, a motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Steve. Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right. Do I have a pen? Okay, possible action items. The first one would be our USU student computational thinking assessment, which was presented. Do I have a motion to continue with that?
I move that we allow the USU students' computational thinking assessment.
Okay, motion by Steve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? San Juan's culture, I think we're just going to bring that back for a second, so we will not even need a motion on that one. School district policy 6130, tuition fees, fines, and charges.
Wait, are we
Did you-
skipping number 2?
Did you jump over number 2?
Specific license and endorsement.
Oh, yes, I did, thank you. No, oh, yes, I did. I crossed it off. We hadn't even done it, sorry, thanks. Okay, number 2, LEA specific license and endorsements. Do I have a motion for that?
I move to approve the LEA specific licenses and endorsements.
Okay, motion by Mary, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes, we only had the bullying and hazing for the first viewing, and it will come back, so. San Juan School District Policy 6130, tuition fees, fines, and charges. If I have a motion to approve that?
I move that we approve the change to policy 6130 regarding tuition fees, fines, and charges.
Okay. Motion by Steve, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All, oh,
Just to review, that's the one you asked if it could be condensed in the future, right?
Yes,
Am
to be
I-
looked
am I
at in
right
the
on that?
future. Uh-huh.
Okay.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay. The TSSA framework that was presented by the superintendent. Do I have a motion for that, to approve that?
I move that we approve the TSSA framework for 2024.
Okay, motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is this something that would have gone through or did go through a committee? Is it something that did a committee come up with this, the framework that's
So there's
presented?
input, it's not a committee, but there is input garnered to develop that plan, and it has been from the beginning. And what you'll find is that plan has stayed consistently similar throughout the years. The only thing really that has been adjusted is as we've gotten an increase, then they've adjusted those amounts. But consistently, that plan has been from input.
And the school principals have provided that input and approved those priorities.
Okay. I was just thinking that this would be, as we read that, I thought this one is something that might be beneficial for board members to be part of before it comes to us, just the thought, since we had done the committee word. So anyway, that's the reason for my question, so thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then a motion for the proposed October board meeting date to change from October 11th to October 4th. So let me just double check it. October 4th. So I need a motion to make that change, as the superintendent will not be here on the 11th.
I move to change the October board meeting from October 11th to October the 4th, and request in that motion that that information be front and center on our website, because some people do look at those ahead of time and have in their mind when that board meeting is. So if we can have that flagged, board meeting change on our website, and then, of course, update it in, with an email that goes out to all staff and those kinds of things.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Discussion? Where was that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we'll turn the time over to the superintendent for informational items.
Really quickly, was Colleen on any of those?
No.
She's been absent for the entire public portion?
Yes.
Not the entire, she was here earlier, wasn't she?
Yeah, after close, she had to go to
Yeah,
an
just the
award.
public.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so information items, currently the National JOM Conference is occurring in Chicago. We have board members there as well as staff, September 11th through 13th. The NAFIS Fall Conference, which Tyrell and I will both be attending, September 17th through 19th, our Impact Aid. And then the Heritage Language Conference is September 29th. And our next board meeting actually will be changed to October 4th. And then just a reminder that fall break is October 13th.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, board. Have a good rest of the month. What time is it?